Good morning. It is Wednesday, November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving, and this is the Zero DTE Morning Analysis, or what I like to call the market situational report that gets us ready for the day. Today I expect relatively light trading. It's being the day before Thanksgiving, and however, today also has quite a few economic reports that are kind of crammed in because we don't have Thursday or Friday to display them. And so there may be a little bit of volatility that is injected into the market, although so far this morning that hasn't been reflected in the implied volatility in the morning. And we'll see that in a second. So the things that we're looking to do is figure out which way the trend's going. And I think that's pretty obvious right now. It's going up, and we'll see. The volatility that exists in, or what is the what we call the volatility regime. We're always looking at big picture volatility and then the volatility for that day, because volatility is always relative. So in the big picture, it's kind of our chunky analysis, tells us how to size or what range of widths to go for. And then the little picture will tell us exactly what to do for that day, what end of the range, and whether or not there's an edge case trade. So let's get to it. We need to go to Trading View, and we can see very clearly that the trend is up. That's the Hull moving average 21-day. We're sitting well above that. So whether you are a person that looks at the slope, you can see that the slope is starting to turn up as the color is changing. Or if you're someone that looks above or below, you can see clearly that we're above. So we're not at all-time highs yet. So there you go. It's possible. I expect today to be, like I said, light trading. We are just trying to break out of a large volume node. So there might be some energies coming in with some out of time frame players, or in other words, big money, that might want to try to push this up prior to the vacation. But that all remains to be seen. I mean, it's just speculation on my part. So let's take a look at the VIX and see where we're at there. Not much has changed. We have dropped a little bit down to 14.31. That is showing that we should be looking at 10 to 20 wide out of the money butterflies. As you all know, we trade asymmetric butterflies on the last day of expiration. And we try to achieve approximately a 1 to 9, 1 to 10 risk to reward ratio that helps us control our drawdown and the volatility of returns while maximizing the return on capital used. And that is a very efficient way of trading. We're taking advantage of time, the time element. We're taking advantage of price by going with the trend, and we're taking advantage of volatility by right-sizing our positions. So it's also well, right now, because there is a holiday in front of us, 2 days, we're not looking at any multi-day DTEs because we're going to have a nice long weekend and then Black Friday. All right, so next thing is to look at the ES and where we are. We can see we're a little bit under yesterday's close. Here's yesterday's close up here at 60.47. And yesterday's trade pulled back to this structural level. These two blue lines here are outlining the large volume node, and as you can see, we're right on the edge and looking to push higher. We did push higher out of it, but failed a breakout and then came back. But this would have been yesterday's entry event, where we pull back to a structural node in the midst of the volume node, and then you would have taken a long position, and that obviously would have worked out very well for you. So that's exactly what we're looking for today, is a pullback to one of these structural levels and then a move up. All right, let's take a look at economic reports that are out there. All right, so yesterday new home sales really failed. That was a big down in Richmond manufacturing. So it's surprising. Well, I guess yeah, it is surprising that yesterday we had such an update that the market didn't really react to this. As a matter of fact, it kind of ignored these two reports, even though they're not high on the overall energy list. Those are dramatically bad reports. New home sales really is that's a killer there, and manufacturing. All right, well, today we have preliminary GDP coming up at 8:30, just in about an hour and 10 minutes, and then unemployment claims, and then durable goods, and also core PCE. Man, that's a lot to swallow for this morning. So let's take a look at the implied volatility for the morning. And the way we do that is looking at at the money big, very large butterfly. And we do that with the ES. We also call this the big ass fly. And if conditions are right, we'll also trade this. Yesterday, the big ass fly did not come into play for us. However, for the ES anyways, but for the NQ it did, and that ended up being a big winner for a lot of traders. A lot of traders made a lot of money. It came very near a pin, so they probably made potentially several $1,000s. We take the ES trade, we want to look at the debit, and then with that debit we will then go back to the Thinkorswim to our volatility chart here in our guide to see where we are on here. So we can see that we're on the high side of the debit scale. So we're looking at 10 to 20 wide. That means that we should be somewhere between 10 and 15 wide on our butterflies. All right, so let's go back to that, to Thinkorswim, and look at that big ass fly. Look at that big ass fly. It's big. But not much ass today. We would take this trade with our big ass fly strategy. It's an edge case if the debit was 25 or lower, but you can see here that it's not. It's at 28.10. We also like to look at the NQ, because the NQ often will be setting up for that trade like it did yesterday. And so why don't we do that? Let's take a look at the NQ. So all I'm going to do, now when you look at the NQ for such a trade, you want to make sure that you choose it on the quarters. So I'm going to make sure that at the money is on 20.0950. I wouldn't do it on 40. And the reason why is obvious. If you look at the volume, you can see on the quarters, the volume is always higher. Right? So you're going to have a much better chance of filling that fly, both getting in and getting out. So make sure we do it on the quarters. Let's buy a very wide fly. We'll have to adjust this to get down to 2800. It's 150 wide. So it's a very wide fly. It's about 3 times the size as the ES fly, which is 50 wide. So here we go to 21,050. Oh, wow. That's surprising. Oh, that's not the right, I'm sorry. I have to go another 50 wide. I was thinking, man, that price doesn't seem quite right. All right, there we go. So it's 150 wide. And what we're really looking for is somewhere between 55 and 60. This is a little bit outside of our comfort zone. I'd say it's like right on the edge. So I'm going to say that this trade is marginally on. So we'll look to take that this morning and see how that pans out. But it is a little bit outside. The thing with the big ass fly on the NASDAQ is that I don't have enough data to say definitively what is our cutoff. I've probably only taken a few dozen of those trades, whereas on the ES I've taken hundreds and hundreds, so I have pretty good empirical data. This trade, I'm going to say that it's within range, and considering the fact that we have some of these economic reports that are coming up, In fact, you might want to wait until about 8:30 to take this trade, because there is some very strong economic reports that are coming up, in particular at 8:30, like the preliminary GDP and unemployment. And so I would expect implied volatility to rise into that event, and that will probably lower that debit, bringing it into range. And quite frankly, that might also happen on the ES, so we'll take a look at that as well. All right, so there you go. We're all set up for today. We know what the direction of our primary trade is, how big we should make it, how we right size it, and whether or not there's an edge case trade that we'll look for as the morning progresses. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know that we will. We're having lots of people over today, and so that should be fun. Always fun to see family and friends. And I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving too, for those of you in the U.S. Take care. Have a great weekend, long weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.